Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is the United Show. This is Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Keane, here this evening, joined by two good special guests here today, joined by Sean and also joined by Marcus. Here today to talk Manchester United's semi-final of the EFL Cup, or Carabao Cup, or Carling Cup, whatever you want to call it. It has so many different sponsors every year, so whatever you want to brand it, I absolutely don't care. We are here to talk, obviously, a very big game for us in terms of our season, in terms of the rebuild, in terms of the finally getting a trophy, hopefully, after a 5-year drought. So there's a lot to talk about this evening. And obviously, we're on the back of the Arsenal game. We may touch on that as well if that does pop up. First of all, Sean, welcome back to the show. How are you today?
I'm very good, Keane, and yourself?
Good.
It's good to be back.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Look, obviously, we were just discussing backstage. There's literally games every 3 days now at this point. So we're not getting sick about talking about Man United yet because I suppose we're on the upward trajectory of things. If it was every 3 games last year, I think I would have gave up talking about them live on shows, definitely. But look, it's a good time, I suppose, to be a Man United fan and a very positive one. Marcus, obviously you were on the stream after the Arsenal game. How's your last few days been, kind of after digesting that result and kind of looking forward to the next kind of few games that are coming thick and fast?
I mean, pretty positive when you consider how threadbare our squad is, consider all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes with the potential sale of the club, and just the fact that Ten Hag has only been here for 6 months, it really puts things into perspective. I mean, the fact that we took currently the best team on form in the country to the distance, is pretty impressive. So yeah, man, pretty positive all around. And I mean, Sancho coming back into training, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I know we're going to talk about fixture congestion and stuff like that as well. So, look, I think seeing Jadon Sancho coming back into the squad, I think it's a very big boost, morale-wise, but also, look, his quality. Look, we all know how good of a player Jadon can be. So, look, hopefully it's something that can definitely boost us going forward. But, Sean, obviously this game tomorrow, Nottingham Forest away at City Ground, it's going to be a tough game, EFL Cup semi-final. Obviously, the game at Old Trafford, we absolutely hockeyed them at Old Trafford. They couldn't pack a punch that day. But we've seen how good they've been at home recently. And we've seen Liverpool go there and struggle. When you look at tomorrow's game, so how important do you think this is to our season, considering, look, we've won loads of our big games. Granted, we lost the other day, but it was to the best team in the league. Where's your head at with tomorrow's game, all things considered?
Yeah, it's a very important. I mean, look, any semi-final is an important game. Anyone that is talking about it's only the Carabao Cup, I think they need to give their head a wobble. Have a look in the mirror, and particularly some other fan groups that are maybe talking about it's only the Carabao Cup, but where are ye in it? You know what I mean? You have to be in it to win it. And look, Ten Hag's positioning himself to win a trophy and finish high up in the league, and he's on course to do both. But I think importance of this game. Not only is it an important game for Ten Hag and the club and the season, but it's a very important game for this fortnight. The last couple of weeks we've had, flying high, the draw at Crystal Palace, obviously the defeat over the weekend. I think Ten Hag needs to lay down a marker now and say, he's not going to accept even going 1-0 up, I don't think would be enough for Ten Hag, and a 1-0 win, I think, wouldn't sit well with him. I think he's kind of said a couple of times recently that, 1-goal lead is a dangerous one. And, that's shown, I suppose, over the last couple of games. So I think he's going to try and, do everything he can to get a more than 1-0 performance out of the side, which I think they can get against Forest. Absolutely, Forest are a threat. They're there for a reason. But I think they'll be probably more nervous of United than United would be of them. Going into this game myself, although absolutely not taking anything away from them. They're the same as we are on their own merit,
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, when you look at the context of the situation, I think they're obviously there on merit. I think, look, the start of the season, I think Forest struggled. They brought in a lot of players, obviously on the back of coming up from the Championship, and it took time for them players to bed in. And look, I think we've seen maybe in the last post-World Cup even that time off the work, time off that they have from playing games of the World Cup, probably done that squad the world of good, because they had time to gel, they had time to train, and consequently, they've come out of the relegation zone and they've got to the semi-final of the cup. So I think Ten they've done a good job in that regard. So look, fair play to them. Obviously, look, we'll talk about Jesse Lingard and stuff like that in a while. But Marcus, it's 5 years without a trophy. We were discussing just off air, like, so a new ownership and stuff like that, and hoping to see a much more successful United going forward. But when you look at a club of United size and look like in the last 5 years, we've been to semi-finals, we've been to finals and lost. So when you look at the significance of this, and you look how well Ten Hag has done with this squad, do you think this could be like a massive marker for this squad who hasn't won much together when you consider the likes of McTominay's, the Rashfords of the world in this squad who haven't won much? We've seen previous teams go on and use this competition as a springboard, such as Chelsea in 2005, such as the United in 2006 when Fergie done his third rebuild at the club. So do you think, like, it's not the most major trophy, but do you think this could be the start of a winning mentality that Manchester United have lacked in the last 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one thing that breeds confidence is when you look at our squad now, particularly our starting 11, our best 11, you notice that there's a lot more leaders in there. You've got Varane, you've got Casemiro. Obviously, Rashford has won trophies before. So has Bruno, not at Manchester United, but he's won them in Portugal. Our manager has won a league title in the Eredivisie. Yes, it's not as competitive as the Premier League, but it still counts for something. So you've got people in the dressing room now who know how to win collectively. You've got leaders in that team. It isn't just one individual that we're pinning all our hopes on. Whereas you rewind to 2-3 years ago, it wasn't that encouraging, even though we as fans believed we were going to win the Europa League final and we believed we could get past all those semi-finals on early. In hindsight, you can look at those squads and say, yeah, it wasn't going to happen, was it, with that group of players? Now, I think there's a belief and there's a genuine opportunity here to win it. And also, you look at what's happening on the other side of the bracket in the Carabao Cup. It's not that difficult. I mean, worst case scenario, I think we get Newcastle or Southampton in the final. So you get past Nottingham Forest, and this is essentially, I don't want to jinx it, but it's essentially as free a trophy as we're going to get to boost our confidence.
Yeah, and you have to look at the draw. I think it's, like you said, it's the best chance we've probably had in the last 5 years. When you consider the last couple of semi-finals we had were against Man City, were against Chelsea. The other semi-final in the Europa League with Roma. Like when you look at the context of the situation, this is definitely, like, no game of football is easy. No semi-final should be easy, but on paper it is right now. So I think we do have to grab the bull by the horns now and really go for it. And also as well, like me and Sean were discussing earlier on today, like, where does Ten Hag prioritize the season? What competition does he prioritize? I think Ten Hag will really prioritize this because, like, we do need trophies. That's a fact.
Yeah,
we do need to start to lay down a marker to the other clubs of Manchester United are back and we're serious. So I do think it'd be good to get the win. I do think it'd be good, even like Garnacho, players like that, Luke Shaw, players like that who haven't won much. Luke Shaw, when we won the Europa League, was on the bench with a broken leg. When we won the EFL Cup the last time in 2017, he wasn't playing that game either. And like the Community Shield as well around then as well, even though, like, look, you can say what you will about that trophy, but it's still a final that he wasn't playing in. Players like that who haven't achieved much at the football club, this will help him. And I always look back, and I said this last year to Phil Marsh when I was speaking to him, former United player, because he was at the club around 2006 when we won this trophy. And he said that when United won that trophy in 2006, it was almost like a changing of the guard because we were doing another rebuild. Obviously, Roy Keane left the club. At the time, obviously, Ferguson was building a much younger team, and we went a couple of years without a trophy then. So I think this competition could have that similar effect, and it could, because when you see teams win trophies, more often than not, the big teams, the first one sets a hunger for a plate of trophies coming in. Like when you look at Man City, when they won the FA Cup years ago, they went on, won the league the next season. They won the Carabao Cup.
I mean, you could say the same about Arsenal.
Yeah,
Arsenal as well.
With the FA Cup as well. So like there's so many different examples of this trophy being a stepping stone. I think we have to use it as that. And look, it's a semi-final. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, Liverpool were in the final last year. Sean's in the comments, he's a Chelsea fan. Would have been nice for them to win it as well on the back of winning the Champions League. So, like, look, I think like whereas, look, it's not the Premier League. that's not something. That's something we want to win. Look, after losing against Arsenal, it's a very tough task. We need them and City to massively collapse. And look, the fact we've Barcelona in the next round of the Europa League, that's going to be a very, very tough game. So at the end of the day, it has to be balls to the wall tomorrow. We do have to go all out. And look, it is, in my opinion, very significant. Now, you'll have probably one or two people on Twitter after this podcast coming at me saying it's only the League Cup. Well, how many League Cups have we won the last 5 years? 0. Sean, I was going to come to a couple of comments first, and then we're going to move on to the next topic. Robbie is in the comments here in the show. He says it'd be a great one to get him off to a winning start by the end of February. The fixture pile-up is mental, though. Yeah, we are going to discuss the fixture congestion in a while because it's been a very weird season, and it's something that I think, not at this stage, but I think when we get to around April or May, it could really affect us in the running, and it's something that we need to start winning the games quick and fast. And Richard is back as well. He says, good evening, fellow Reds. Good evening, Richard. Hope you're well, pal. And he also says, absolute scenes when Eric wins his first trophy in his first season. Yeah, look, that'd be absolutely great. Remember Jose Mourinho won this trophy in his first season. I was at that final. I remember when we won the trophy and Zlatan scored injury time. It felt like at that point we were getting our club back. We were starting to get that hunger for success again. Obviously, Glazers didn't back Mourinho. We all know what happened then in the end, and he ultimately left. But I think obviously it'd be a good day out. Considering I'm a cup season ticket holder, so I'll be able to enter the ballot for the cup final tickets. So if we do win, I'll be on the session in London for the game. And Sean also says evening men, and then Richard just welcomes Sean to the comments as well. But Sean, obviously, look, it's been well documented. We had the World Cup. We've had the unfortunate passing of Queen Elizabeth as well, which has kind of halted the season in some respects because of, I suppose games have been postponed. The World Cup's happened. We've had like a month to 6 weeks nearly off. Now this second half of the season, Man United have had an unprecedented run of games, even worse than the treble season, when we had that run of games when we were competing on all fronts. Looks like we're going to have maybe even worse than that in terms of days between games. When you look at Man United's squad and you look at like certain areas of our squad, like midfield and attack, are you concerned by this fixture congestion? Do you think like this could actually affect Man United's season long term when you consider, I suppose, the lack of depth we have in certain areas?
Yeah, Keane, maybe in the short term, I think it'll affect the season, I think there's definite pros and cons to it, to be honest. I suppose there's very obvious cons that I don't think I really need to elaborate on, but I think pros-wise, I mean, if the fielded team is going to be Ten Hag's best 11, or I suppose the previous manager's teams, and players that are kind of around that 11, you talk about your McTominays and Freds of the world and things like that, although I see Ten Hag using Fred a bit more, and he's been a little bit better this year. I know Wan-Bissaka sort of came in there as well. Dalot is probably the first choice at the minute, but I think what it'll do is it'll show Ten Hag, what he has to build, what exists, what blocks are there, and what blocks are sort of broken that he needs to replace with fresh blocks, if you're going to use that building analogy. And I think there's definite lessons to be learned. And if United can do that in a successful season with a trophy and a high finish in the league, I think fantastic stuff. It puts us in a great position then going forward to achieve even more success, But I think, there's the obvious cons, Keane, and Marcus, you'll agree with me, I'm sure, of that, playing games and games upon games. I mean, look, Eriksen sort of, for me, at the weekend was showing that fatigue, and look, a 30-something-year-old man with a heart condition, and he's going out week in and week out. We need to make sure he's class. Like, don't get me wrong, but do you need backup for a player like that when you're playing 3 games a week kind of situation? And I think you do, and I think we're playing Leeds within 4 days of each other.
Yeah, that's because the Queen Elizabeth's passing at the time.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, look, that'll tell you exactly how piled up it's going to be. And obviously, the more competitions you are in, the more piled up it's going to be. So I suppose for me, the question is, when does he play Ten Hag's team and when does he play the previous manager's team,
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think for me on that one, I think it goes down to the point of, well, it depends what happens against Barcelona, because if we get knocked out against Barcelona, that will free up the season. We won't be going Thursday, Sunday anymore. It'll go back to kind of having one game a week, maybe minus a midweek FA Cup game. In that regard, but I do see him putting out the first team every game now, because I think the quicker we get top four, the better. Because when you look at Spurs, if they're bringing in a couple of players now, they might get out of the rut of form. Conte might sign that new deal, and all of a sudden Spurs might be on the up again. The vibe around that club might be better. I do think, obviously, Newcastle, whatever about the type of football they're playing, it isn't box office football, but they're getting the job done every week. Their defense is really good. Their defense is top at the minute, like the best defensive record in the league this season. So I do think we have to keep winning games. But to kind of answer your question on that, I do think it's going to be a case of, it depends. Like the Europa League, I think the season really hinges on that. If we go deep in that, I do think maybe towards the end of the season, fatigue happens, injuries happen. Like we've seen under Mourinho, even though we won the trophy that season, players like Eric Bailly, Marcus Rojo, Luke Shaw, Zlatan Ibrahimovic all got injured towards the end of that season because of the amount of games we played. So, like, look, it could happen, it can happen, but I do think, the prioritization of the competitions, I think Ten Hag is the type of manager I'll take it game by game, and he's just a mentality monster. He'll want to win every single game, and it's not like when Jose was there, almost in February that season, he said, fuck the league, we're winning the Europa League, which nearly backfired on him. Way for what's his name? Your man from Celta Vigo. Remember, he missed point blank range. Oh, I used to John Guidetti, yeah. John Guidetti missed some point blank range, and we nearly didn't have Champions League football. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Marcus, we have a very good stat here. Richard says the very first meeting between United and Forest was in 1892 in League Division 1, in front of a huge crowd of 6,000 fans, and United won the game thanks to a goal from Alfred Farman. 1892, Jesus Christ. Isn't it mad how the history
long time ago
just goes back that so far, and the history of the games, just it's amazing. And yeah, look, football was even that big that 6,000 people were turning up to games in 1892. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, on the point about what Erik ten Hag should prioritize, the beauty about the League Cup, whether people like it or not, it's a trophy, and you can win it and be done with it before the end of the season. So in the League Cup, we've only got 2 games. We've got the semi-final, which is tomorrow, and we've got the final. You play those 2 games, you've got your trophy. For me, ignore the Europa League and ignore the FA Cup, because we don't have the squad to compete for top 4 and play in those other 2 competitions. We're more than capable of beating Barca. We're more than capable of beating whoever we face in the FA Cup on our day, but it's just not wise long term. We saw what's happened under previous managers when we tried to prioritize more than one competition, and I think you've just got to pull a Jose and try, win the trophy that you can and then get top 4. I mean, Jose killed 2 birds with one stone, essentially, by winning the Europa League and getting Champions League football that way. But Ten Hag's in a position where he can actually make top 4 realistically and still win a trophy. And that's a luxury not many Manchester United fans have had since Alex retired. So I would cling on to that with both hands. And yeah, man, I mean, obviously you want to win every game of football, but you've just got to be realistic. Field the weak team against Barcelona and see what happens, man. That's what I would be doing, and take tomorrow as seriously as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to take every game at this moment in time as seriously as possible. And Alex says we can win a treble. Do United do what Liverpool done in 2001 and win the Europa League, FA Cup and League Cup? It's possible. Liverpool did do it in 2001, but I do think, not often teams do that. But that would be crazy if we done the cup treble this season.
What would you call that? The treble light, treble 0-0 or something like that. Yeah.
Treble 0 or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, vegan treble.
Yeah. But do you know what? We would have completed the treble set then at that stage. It's mad because we were very close to being Europa Conference League, going for Brighton last season on the last day. Like, we could literally complete the full European set this season if we ended up in the Conference League. And Robbie says the Mickey Mouse treble. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Compared to the obviously the one we won. Obviously, look, we want to win trophies. We're not downgrading that, but it is Mickey Mouse compared to the treble we did win, because no other team in English football has replicated, and I don't think they ever will in one season. But yeah, look, Marcus, I do see your point. I think top 4 is it's very important. I think obviously long term for solidifying the rebuild. I think with the Glazers leaving very soon, getting the new owners in, it's very, very important. I think we do get Champions League football to attract the best players. Like,
Yeah.
I do. When you look at the midfield merry-go-round that we're going to see in the summer, Enzo Fernandez, Frankie de Jong, and Jude Bellingham, there's going to be a battle between loads of clubs with them three midfielders. We need to be within a shout for any of them. So I do think, obviously, we need Champions League football to be in that battle. In that case, so we do need to get Champions League football. And look, I think even for FFP reasons, if we're talking outside of football and or like those transfers, to compete with FFP and even sign anyone this summer, we need Champions League football. Because obviously the Adidas deal as well. If we don't qualify for 2 seasons in a row, we're taking a hit, a big hit in that. So look, it's something that's it's very, very important. And look, who likes watching football on Thursday? I'd like to have my Thursday off before I watch a full weekend of Premier League. I do not like watching Europa League. Now, to be fair, I've been to a few Europa League games this season, but look, I just no.
It's just not the same, is it? Playing against AZ Alkmaar and Astana and what was it, Sheriff, and who was the other team in our group? I mean, Real Sociedad are a decent team, to be fair, but
Omonia.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like it's not the same. It just doesn't hit the same as Champions League on a Wednesday night under the floodlights at Old Trafford. It's just not the same.
Yeah, like for anyone who's been at a Champions League game, big Champions League game, that music hits in Stretford End. Like there's few better feelings in life when you're sitting there. I can tell you that much. But yeah, look, I think top 4 is important. I think again with Ten Hag, for me, it just feels like that he's just such a mentality monster. He will not give a shit. At every game, he'll just go balls to the wall. Now, will that be our detriment? We don't know yet. In that case, it's going to come to a couple of comments. In that case, Richard says, plenty of time for Arsenal to choke. They've done it before. I did mention on Friday that they haven't had their slump yet. Like, they haven't hit the February, March. To be fair, they still have to go deep into Europa League too. I think there Thomas Partey and Bukayo Saka injury could really be detrimental to their season. And even, I go as far as say, even the Ben White injury, he's been absolutely outstanding as well for them this season. Richard calls it the Scouse treble. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think we brought our trophies to Liverpool. They might get robbed though, so I think we have to keep them locked up. Helly says Arsenal are still in the Europa League. They're going to have to rotate at some stage too. I'm not sure they have great depth in the squad. I think in certain areas they probably have better depth than us. But yeah, I think they'd have a similar situation if they go deep into it as well. And yeah, Richard says Alkmaar have a bit of history of that club in Europe as well. And also Robbie points out about FFP as well. He says, don't forget TeamViewer deal gone too as well. New deal could be worse on FFP. Exactly. So like Champions League football, whether people want to admit it or not, and people laugh at us for saying top 4 is important. When you look at the actual implications off the pitch, our club could be in the pits. It really could be. And that's even with new owners coming in, because even we get new owners and we have the constraints of FFP there, it'll take an extra 12 to 18 months for that rebuild. Yeah. The rebuild could be stalled. And then, like, when do Manchester United ever sell players for a profit? We don't. Dan James, last one, you know. Yeah. And even before, who was before that? You know, Daley Blind. But like,
I mean, how much did we sell James Garner for? And that wasn't even a big amount of money.
15 million, but he was from the academy. You know,
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
So like, even if we look at a mass exodus and we don't finish in the Champions League places, like we get rid of Harry Maguire, we're going to make a 40 million loss on him, maybe even 50 million. We sell David De Gea, let's say. You know, his transfer fee will be probably more what we paid. We look at all these players, Phil Jones, you know, Eric Bailly, players like that. They're going to go for peanuts. So like, look, I think it's very important. And yeah, Blind is still playing very well. He's had such a great career in that case too. But we will move on to obviously our team tomorrow, because obviously we're coming up against Forest, who have, like we said, have had a very good record. I suppose post World Cup, they've been picking up wins. They've given Chelsea a good game. They've beaten Liverpool, and like, you know, they've looked almost certain for relegation. They're not well out of the race yet, but they've been playing a lot better as of late, and looks like they're starting to I suppose get used to life in the top flight. But Sean, when you look at tomorrow and you look at, I suppose we have another game on the weekend. Do you see the likes of Casemiro, Marcus Rashford? Do you see the likes of them playing tomorrow, or do you think Ten Hag might look at players like Garnacho, maybe even Scott McTominay, because he hasn't played much games of football, and the fact this is a two-legged affair? Do you maybe think he might not fully rotate, but maybe make 1 or 2 minuscule changes to the team that, maybe just give some players a rest who've kind of played so much lately?
I don't know if he will, Keane, but I think he should. To be honest with you, I can actually see Casemiro starting. After the suspension, I suppose. Coming in back into the side and just, I suppose, showing what he can do. McTominay, I prefer not to speak. I suppose to quote one of our former managers. I just know. And I do see players that maybe haven't been constant starters making an appearance from the beginning, maybe tomorrow or coming in at some stage. I think centre half might maybe rest Varane. Does Malacia come in for Shaw, who's played a lot of games? I think we could see quite a changed side, but that's me thinking logically for what's best. And I think Ten Hag thinks I'm going to win, and to win I'm going to put out the best team I have. So does he?
It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it, when you consider where we are?
Yeah, I do you know what, I prefer if there was a few players rested, but then there's a reason I'm on. No disrespect to the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk, but there's a reason I'm on this podcast and not in the Man United dressing room. You know what I mean? And I mean that with absolute full respect. But Ten Hag is going to do what's best for Man United, and me talking about it isn't probably going to change too much on it. But yeah, I'd like to see a few changes. I don't think there will be.
Are you the same milk, Marcus, or would you like to see him maybe go full strength and played like Rashford and Shaw again, just to kind of, I suppose, get it over the line in the first leg, and maybe at Old Trafford then the second leg, maybe make a few changes because we're at home?
No, I think he's got to go strong, because one big criticism I had under our previous manager was, I remember it was against post-COVID, it was against Chelsea, I think, in the FA Cup. We played a very, very blended team because he was obviously prioritizing top four. And that cost us a semi-final. We could have easily been in a final if we had, maybe not easily. It wasn't a foregone conclusion.
We would have had Arsenal in that final as well.
Yeah. We would have had a chance of winning. And for me, Erik ten Hag cannot take that risk. Nottingham Forest, they've only lost 3 of their last 10. They're sitting in 13th. Yes, they're only 4 points from the relegation zone, but compared to the rest of the pack, and considering they're a newly promoted team, they're actually doing quite well compared to some of the teams that are at the bottom there, like Leicester and Wolves and etc., etc. So I don't think Nottingham Forest is just going to be a walkover, especially after we beat them 3-0. They're going to try come with a point to prove. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. So for me, you've got to go strong. I think Casemiro, the suspension might be a blessing in disguise, because now he's had a bit of a chance to rest. So you play him in this game and then maybe not play him against Reading. But for me, you've got to go full strength for this game. It's really important that Manchester United win this game and get into that final and win a trophy, So I wouldn't be mad at Ten Hag if he played a strong team. And also, I like the fact that I'm not 100% sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I like the fact that Dean Henderson might not be allowed to play in this game, because I'm pretty sure we had the option.
He needs special permission from United. That rule changed a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I saw some United fans on Twitter saying, just let Henderson play, we'll win anyways. I was like, nope, don't take any chances. Take every advantage you possibly can going into this game, because the thing about cup football is all it takes is for you to have one bad half of football, and suddenly the next 45 minutes you're looking at getting knocked out. So you can't take chances. You got to give yourself every advantage possible. For me, play a strong team.
Yeah, I think, look, you can maybe afford to maybe rest Rashford and probably rest Shaw. That's for me at most.
Yeah.
In that case, maybe Eriksen as well. Maybe at most
Eriksen,
changes. Yeah, because he's 30-year-old with a pacemaker. You have to be careful. Like you have to be. As great as he is quality wise, I think you have to look at the welfare of the player, especially in this weird season.
I mean, I think also tactically, like playing Eriksen when he's not fit it's a terrible idea, because just defensively he's not there. So I think even just for tactical reasons, maybe not playing Eriksen in this game might be a very intelligent thing. Maybe play Fred, because I know this is me being a genius in hindsight, but I genuinely believe against Arsenal that if you put Fred in that situation where Saka is, cutting in all the time, maybe he doesn't stop the shot and the wonder goal, but some of the other situations where Saka cut in, pass to Odegaard, I think Fred can help break up the play there, because one thing he is better at than Eriksen is breaking up the play, being tenacious, getting interceptions, getting blocks, etc. So yeah, maybe you play him in a game like this.
Yeah, him and Casemiro do have a very good partnership as well. And you see they're internationally for Brazil, they do have a good partnership there as well. And you're right, like, look, even like I remember someone saying to me on Sunday, Ten Hag should have done more to change the game. I looked at our bench and I was like, how?
Yeah.
Like, fair enough. Take off Eriksen, bring on Garnacho. We're already getting peppered in midfield. He tried to bring on Fred to negate Saka on that side. He did try to change it up. Unfortunately, look, we didn't have much on the bench. Martial was injured. Dallo wasn't playing. Obviously, Dallo was injured as well. Obviously, so we couldn't even go more attacking from the fullback perspective as well. So, look, it is what it is. We lost the game, but name a team that went to the Emirates and gave Arsenal a game like that this season. No one has. None.
Yeah.
Newcastle, okay, they're resistant defensively, but what do they do offensively? Jack shit. Absolutely fuck all. Sorry for my language, but I just I have to be frank when it comes to that. So, look, it is what it is. We've beat City, we drew against Palace, we lost against Arsenal. Ideally, at least 7 points in them 9 games would have been lovely. Like, it would have been great. It would have put us in a great position. We're still in a good position, by the way. Like, it's not like the season's over. Look, the great thing about Erik Ten Hag, and I reflect on this nearly every day about him as manager since he's come in. He's made us believe again. He's made us look forward to United games now. He's made us, have that belief that we can go to the Emirates and get a win. Like last season, right, under Ralph Rangnick, when we went there last season, right, when you have Ronaldo up top, anything can happen. Fair enough. Anything can happen. He could score goals. But realistically, we were going there thinking we're probably going to get bet today, considering the form we're on. We went to the Etihad last season against Ralph. We had absolutely no hope. We didn't think we could win. Went to Anfield, didn't have any belief at all. In every big game this season, bar probably Liverpool at start on the back of the Brentford and Brighton defeat, we've gone into every home game, every big game this season, and have belief that we can win. And that's the mentality shift he's had within the players. I think he's helped fans even to a certain extent change their mentality and their expectations of the team. So, like, I think that's a testament to him, a testament to like what they've done with the squad, the players, the coach and staff, etc.
Yeah.
So, look, yes, it's unfortunate we lost against Arsenal. Yes, look, that free kick against Crystal Palace, that was an absolute screamer. Like, come on, like, no, like David De Gea's great shot stopper is, you couldn't get to that one. I think we have to I think things have to be put into context. Now, look, if we have another run of games where we pick up 1 or 2 results, then you'd probably question what's happening. But for me, I'm seeing a lot on social media in the last few days that they're concerned about Ten Hag and stuff like that. Look, we played 3 games in a week, 3 very high intensity games. Arsenal had a week off. Like Kelly even says in the comments, Arsenal had a week off to prepare for that game. United had a derby. They went to Selhurst Park, which was one of the toughest places to go in the league, and then we went to the Emirates. Context is key, guys. I think that's the message we would be spreading from this year. But we are going to go into our start 11 predictions, and look, we'll score predictions and an extra topic at the end. And Sean, I know we spoke briefly about little changes you make, but give me your 1 to 11 for tomorrow.
I don't know what I'd like to see, and I'm actually not sure. I'm very on the fence on what I'd like to see against Forest. Look, I think De Gea is a dead cert in between the sticks. That's for me. I'd probably look Shaw, Martinez. Do you play Varane? Do you play Maguire? Do you play Lindelof? Look, toss up between the 3 of them. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe rest Varane. I don't know myself. I wouldn't play Maguire. I wouldn't play Maguire if I was the manager of a Sunday League team. That's another matter altogether. Play Wan-Bissaka on the far side, I suppose. You're probably talking about, I'd like to see Fred, Casemiro and Bruno in the middle. And I suppose Weghorst, Anthony and on the other side, I'd go Garnacho. I'd actually rest Rashford if I was there. But look, things could be completely different now. I'm not a fortune teller either. Again, I'd have a lucrative fortune teller business if I was very good at that. Hopefully I'll get the score prediction right a bit later. But yeah, look, that's where I like to go with it anyway, and I could be totally wrong. And if I am, so be it.
Yeah, look, it's all about the game. It's all, and that's the way it is. I've been wrong multiple times on this podcast with 11s and score predictions. And look,
Have you?
Oh, always.
Somebody
Absolutely.
clip that up.
And look, it's happened multiple times. I've been clipped up multiple times on this pod as well. Marcus, do you have anything different to Sean's 11?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously De Gea starts. Obviously Luke Shaw starts. I probably would rest Varane because I think there was a bit of a niggle or an issue with him in the Arsenal game, and he's such an important player that we all know his legs are made of glass, so you can't afford to risk it for me. I think you play Martinez, you play Lindelof, and then you play Wan-Bissaka, and you can get through that game. In the midfield, I would bring in Fred. I would rest Eriksen. I think Casemiro in the pivot, obviously, and then Bruno in the 10. I think in this game, I would start Garnacho, play Rashford through the middle, and play Antony. The only reason I do that is because I haven't been impressed with Weghorst. I think that when I look at him and I look at our front three, I don't think they're on the same wavelength. And that's not Weghorst's fault. But I think when you look at his strengths in terms of being a pressing forward, his hold up and his link up play, he just doesn't gel with that front three. And I feel like his lack of pace really costs him in terms of getting on the end of his own chances. So I don't know. And also the fact that Rashford has been really selfish, which again is not a problem because he's scoring goals. He's not really getting that service as well. So I find Weghorst to be a little bit redundant, and him playing in the front three, I really think it slows us down. But a lot of people seem to disagree. A lot of people have thought that Weghorst has been very decent. But for me personally, front three of Garnacho, Rashford, and Antony. Then you can bring Weghorst off the bench.
It's weird because I think I've seen parts where I've liked his hold up play and bringing others in like on the counter. I do see what you mean about in terms of maybe getting onto the end of the ball. He's been a bit unfortunate that way. I like some of his runs off the ball, like taking defenders out of play. He's done that a couple of times in the last couple of games. Look, I think Forest, a team that's going to play deep, he could be a target man in this game, getting balls into the box. He could be something different.
That's true.
That's something that could happen for him. But yeah, my 11 is De Gea in goal. Wan-Bissaka by process of default right now. Dalot's still injured. By the way, that's by no means dismissing what Wan-Bissaka's done. He's been brilliant since he's come back into the team. And what I love about Wan-Bissaka's return is no interviews, no crying, no bullshit. Just work hard, get back into the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be professional. That's what I really love about him coming back in so far. Especially a player who, on paper, when you look at Ten Hag's style of play, we all thought he was gone. I thought, 100% he's gone. And now United are looking at potentially keeping him now. So, look, we'll see what happens there in the coming months if he maintains that. I've gone completely different with the centre-half pairing than the both of you. I've gone Maguire and Martinez. When I look at how just sometimes physical that Forrest can be up front, I think Harry Maguire could be useful in this game. He's decent on the ball. Now, at times, look, he can labour on it, but I do think Maguire can be suited to this game. I think Martinez, look, he's just integral to everything we do. And I think, look, when Forrest want to hit us some set pieces in the physical battle, me personally, I would not want Victor Lindelof in there. Especially, look, when you look at Martinez, right, he's 5'9" and he reads the game very well. I do think at some stretch, in a very physical game like that, where second balls and stuff like that are going to be very important to win him, I think Harry Maguire would be more suited to win them second balls and winning them duels than Victor Lindelof personally. That's just from watching like Lindelof in these types of games before. We've seen Lindelof against Bristol City a couple of years ago. My fucking God. We've seen how these physical teams can hit him. And I just have PTSD thinking about them games in the Carabao Cup. So I'm going to go Harry Maguire now. Look, people in the comments are probably going to absolutely look for my address and they'll probably kill me. They'll follow Sean and look for it on Twitter.
They don't need to in the comments. I have it. It's okay. I have you covered.
Yeah, absolutely. They've be messaging Sean on Twitter there as Twitter handle now, looking for my address after this. But yeah, and I go Luke Shaw. No, I'll go Malacia left back. I think, yeah, look, if you're resting anyone in this back four, it has to be Roberto Carlos. He has to be rested on this one. Yeah, same midfield threes. All of you have gotten Casemiro, Fred, Bruno. I think, look, Fred, we're talking about, again, physical duels, winning second balls, so being good in transition. I think Fred would be more suited to that than McTominay in this game. And yeah, look, I think Casemiro and Bruno speak for themselves. Especially looking big games, they've showed leadership this season. I think where Bruno's numbers have dipped, his overall leadership in this team has come on leaps and bounds, and his game has come on leaps and bounds compared to what it was. And he's become a very important figure in terms of getting this team to where it needs to be. And like, even, do you know what? And people moan about him moaning at the referee. But who else is going to do it? Honestly, who else is going to do? Who else is going to go over and look for that tackle, look for that penalty, look for that free kick? If you don't look, you never get it. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I think where we've seen Man United players for years, Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, they've went over and pestered referees. They made them almost intimidated of them to get decisions. Look, Bruno might be a bit petulant at times, right? I get that. But he's a character and he's a leader, and he needs someone who wants to win and win by any means necessary. You know, we need more players like that in our team. We have that in the likes of Casemiro, Varane, Martinez. We have players like that who will win at any cost. Bruno Fernandes is starting to turn out to be that type of character, and we need character in our team. You can have all the football ability in the world. You can have all the skills. You can have all the passing range. You can have all that, but you need character at top level, and you need a bit of shithousery in your team, and he does give us that in abundance.
Passion as well. Sorry, Keane. Just passion as well. I mean, that's what it is for me more than shithousery. I think it's just the passion out of Fernandes that he wants it so bad for the team, for obviously himself, for the fans. I just think it's more passion than anything, and I think that's what he's after. You know, he wants every result, and again, the competitive nature. You know, if he was looking at the toss of a coin, he'd want to win that as well. You know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've never interpreted it as petulance or just being tantrums. I've always interpreted it as passion, as somebody who just wants to win at all costs and doesn't know what else to do with the frustration and the passion. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, he's just a character. And do you know what? From the first moment he came into this club and listened to his first couple of interviews and seen him on the pitch, I've just taken to him. I really have. I do. He's just a player who wants best for Man United. And the one thing that really stood out for me for Bruno, and this was 2 years ago when the Super League happened, when the Super League announcement came out, and he was one of the first players, not only at Man United but in the Premier League, who came out and spoke against it.
Yeah, him and Luke Shaw. Yeah.
So, look, I think when I look at it from that perspective, he's someone who. Look, he mightn't be rival fans' cup of tea. I know Sean was in the comments. I make his blood boil every time we talk about Bruno. But yeah, look, he's one of our players, and he's that type of player where you like him if he's one of your own, but if he's against you, you absolutely hate him. He's one of them, like. But yeah, the front three. I was thinking about it earlier today. What I'd go with. I was hoping Martial would be fit for this game. So we could do a bit of rotation up front and have kind of a free-flowing front three. But I'm going to go Anthony, Weghorst and Garnacho. I'm going to rest Rashford for this one, but look, he can come off the bench if needs be and probably to get us out of a bad situation if that does happen. Hopefully not. But yeah, I think Garnacho, look, Serge Aurier starting right back. We've seen what Garnacho done to him the last time he played against him. And Aurier does have a tendency in the latter phase of play to give away a lot of fouls. So, Joe, he's someone who I think we can catch. I think Garnacho is someone who can definitely take him on and win them duels. And yeah, he's just a brilliant pair. I can't wait to see him against Trent Alexander-Arnold, by the way. That is going to be fucking entertaining shit. That is going to be entertaining shit. Right in front of the cop, he's going to skin him. Calling it now. But yeah,
do either of the two that Rashford has been very honest this year. You know, staying on his feet a bit more. You know, if Garnacho is in there, is he going to draw them fouls a little bit? Look, I know Rashford is class. Like, I'm not taking away from it, but just from the last couple of games, I think there was a couple of instances where he was nearly too honest.
Yeah, where he could have gone down and maybe tried to win something. I know what you mean.
And I think he has this new frame. I think we're all talking about this, that he's after getting bigger. And is that meaning that he's sort of staying on his feet more, where before it would have been enough to take him off his feet, and is that part of an adjustment maybe that this class player is going to make with this new sort of attitude? Look, I'm not taking away from it. I take him any day of the week, regardless of how honest he is or not. But I think Garnacho probably draws the foul a little bit more, though.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at Rashford and just his body language, his demeanor, what he does off the pitch. He's just a good sportsman, isn't he? He likes to play the game the proper way. He's not into the antics. He's not like Bruno, who will literally do anything to try to win. And so, I don't know. It's a negative from the point of view of not winning penalties or free kicks, but it's a positive from the point of view that we have a mix and a blend of characters in the team. And one thing about Rashford is we never have to worry about him getting in the bad books of the referee, whereas with Bruno, sometimes he can be a hothead. So. I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse in a way, but I get what you mean. I think Garnacho, he's got that dog in him, as the cool kids on Twitter like to say. Anyways.
Yeah, he does. He does have that dog in him. And again, look, I just want on pay-per-view Garnacho versus Trent. Please. I just want to see that duel. I just want to see that man get sent to the shadow realm. Really. I really, really do. There could come to another couple of comments. Alex says Bruno goal against City. Yeah, look, he was very influential in terms of getting into the referee's ear and to get that allowed. And also Benny McCarthy has got Rashford scoring. And he's been very integral. It's not only Rashford but the other players and the attacking players in the team as well doing well. But yeah, just before we get to our last topic of the evening, we're going to get our score predictions of both of the lads for the first leg of the EFL or Carabao Cup. Or I don't know, what was it called years ago, Sean? The
Worthington Cup, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Before my time now.
I mean, when I was a kid, I think it was called the Capital One Cup. That exposes my age a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, the Capital One Cup. That would have been around the 2010s, early 2010s.
Yeah, I was still a kid back
then. The older generation would have called it the Milk Cup, I think.
It's mad. It's mad how many sponsors now this competition is getting. There'll be a new sponsor next year. Probably the way Prime is selling in England, they'll probably call it the Prime Cup or something like that. It'll be something like that. But yeah, we'll get our score predictions. I'll go to you first, Marcus. What do you predict for tomorrow's game?
You know what? I'm feeling pretty confident. I don't think we'll do them 3-0 again, but I think clean 2-0 performance, clean sheet, coasting home. Hopefully Rashford and Eriksen don't have to come off from the bench. So yeah, I'm going to go with a solid 2-0 performance. I think it's going to be a game where they try to hit us on the break. And it's going to be them sitting back with us controlling most of the ball, and we shouldn't have too many problems. I mean, in comparison to Crystal Palace, Man City, and Arsenal, I think the intensity of this game is going to be much, much lower, and the difficulty as well is going to be much, much lower. So it's almost the perfect game, and it's got the perfect incentive for these players to bounce back, because yeah, Arsenal was disappointing, but now you've got a chance to win a trophy, and you've got such a easy route to the final. So yeah, man, I think we'll do well in this game.
Yeah, and I think Alex shares your confidence on that one, Marcus. He says 4-0 United, take that to the bookies. And Richard also says 2-0 United as well. And Sean, are you on the same wavelength as Marcus and the lads in the comments in terms of confidence?
Yeah, I am confident. Definitely. Look, I said at the top of the podcast here that 1-0 won't do Ten Hag after a couple of the things he said recently about 1-0 being a dangerous lead. So I completely agree with Marcus. I think 2-0 is the score, if not more, but hopefully more. But I think 2-0 is what Ten Hag is looking for, at least out of this group of players, and I do think he gets it.
Yeah, do think it is a very winnable game. I'm on the same wavelength of confidence. See, I'm going to go 2-0 United as well. I do think it'll be a professional performance. I do see the likes of Casemiro getting us through the game and managing the game very well. I'm gonna go on extra goal scorers. Just for my good old friends over in Talk Sport, I'm gonna go Anthony to score and to give Gabriel Bonlihor something to talk about again. And also because I've put him in the team, people are gonna hate me, but I'm gonna go Harry Maguire to score as well. That'd be a nice little talking point on Twitter if Harry Maguire gets a goal. Even for like me, who probably isn't his biggest fan, but if he some crack to see him score in the cup semi-final if he was to play. And Richard says we should be given. Why won't this comment come up? We should be going to City Ground and giving them a right pacing as well. Yeah, look. At the end of the day, on paper we should, but again, it's anything. As Marcus said, anything can happen in a cup game, and especially like at this level.
Speaking of which, I'm trying to remember who it was against, but do you guys remember when Harry Maguire scored like a half volley from outside the box under Ollie? It was. I'm trying to remember who it was.
We were away from home, weren't we?
Yeah, we were away from home. The pitch looked terrible. Lots of people were worried that there was going to be injuries. People
Phil Jones never scored in this game. I know what you're on about.
Yeah. Phil Jones is the biggest smile I've ever seen him had, because that was his first start in like 18 months.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm going to get this.
Yeah, now. But anyways, yeah. So Maguire scored there, and he has a knack of just popping up with. I mean, he hasn't scored that much in his United career, to be fair, but it would be typical of him to score in such obscure and sporadic circumstances. So I don't think that's a mad shout. Although for me, I would go with Garnacho. I feel like it's just inevitable that Garnacho's going to, whether he comes off the bench or he starts, I feel like Garnacho is just going to somehow influence the scoreboard, whether it's a goal or an assist. I feel like he's going to have his moment in the semi-final.
Yeah, Garnacho's moment in the semi-final, and then sign that new contract. Sign it, son. Get him signed up. But yeah, I'd love to see Garnacho get a goal or an assist tomorrow. It'd be just great. Viva Garnacho, then being sang by the fans then again. But yeah, on that, the club it was Tranmere Rovers. We won 5-0. Yeah, Phil Jones scored in that game as well.
Alex's comment there, yeah. Wakehorse to get at least one, I think that'd be great.
Well, that would shut me up.
Shut a lot of people up as well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Wakehorse this and Wakehorse that. Get him to bury one from 40 yards into the top bin, out through the back of the net, burst a hole in the goals. And that's what dreams are made of. Yeah. Never mind your Harry Maguire, he shouldn't even be playing.
On that, before we wrap up, I'll come to both of you, just a quick question. In terms of like cup games Man United have played, and you include like cup finals as well, what's your favourite Man United cup game you've ever watched in your lifetime? Marcus, I'll come to you first. That one.
So my earliest memory of watching English teams was the 2008 match between Chelsea and Man United. I believe it went to a penalty shootout as well. And I just remember as a kid. Yeah, I just remember as a kid just being mesmerized and amazed, the primary colors of football, blue and red, going at each other in this massive tournament. That was like my introduction into European football. Before then, I'd never really watched European football. The only time I'd watched Manchester United before then was when they came on tour, a preseason tour in South Africa back in like 2006. And I was too young to remember anything. I know they beat one of our best teams 4-1. Rooney went off early because Sir Alex was unhappy with him, even in a friendly. But yeah, that was for me the most magical moment. And then I don't know, for some reason, the one under Jose, the EFL Cup, for some reason, because we had been so bad for so long, that one for me really stood out. The Europa League was obviously more prestigious, but the EFL Cup, when Zlatan obviously had such a big moment in that game, I just thought, man, like we're back. I actually thought we were back in that moment.
Yeah, same.
So those two are the standouts for me. Obviously, the Champions League one is far and beyond the best memory.
Do you know what as well? It's funny you mentioned that game, because I was in Wembley for that game, and I got drove back about 3 rows when we scored that goal, because it was just absolute limbs, and they got a broken nose as well. So yeah, that I'll always remember that game for multiple reasons. That was a good crack. Alex says Champions League final when Ollie came on. Yeah, look, when you hear that commentary and Solskjaer's won it, I think that'll live on forever. And Richard has a good one here. He says, beating Liverpool in the 1977 FA Cup final when I was a knee high to a grasshopper, never forgotten. Sean, what is your favourite and most memorable cup game that you remember in your lifetime?
Yeah, look, the obvious answer is Alex's comment here again. The Champions League, Sheringham and Solskjaer. That's the real obvious answer, I guess. But for me, what stands out is Scholes' goal versus Newcastle in the FA Cup same year, in the final. I think Sheringham scored the other one, the first goal, and Scholes. But I remember that Scholes goal, and that was really to seal the deal. And for me, it was just, I love this club. At that age, I was young, and I suppose I was a Man United supporter as long as I can remember, with no real recollection of how really good they are. And it was that that moment that I was just like, this is just unbelievable. They were just a juggernaut, and it was so obvious. And look, I really want that club to come back to where we were that time. You know, absolute juggernauts, unstoppable teams, afraid of their lives to come and play us, afraid of their lives. You know, even leaving lads out for fear they'd get, you know, that they wouldn't be playing the next game. We'll say, especially with the likes of Keane on, and we know what he did to Mr. Haaland, you know, and things like that. He put the fear of God in players, as did a lot of our players, and that's what I want the club to go back to. But yeah, my answer got very convoluted there. Scholes, 99 FA Cup final,
Yeah, look, that was a brilliant occasion for the club, and we were 2/3 away to the treble. And I agree with your sentiment there on the club being back to where it is. As soon as the Glazers fuck off, Wigan beating City in 2020, that was pretty good. Yeah, that was. Callum McManamon, he scored, didn't he? And to win the game that day for Wigan.
Great comment.
Yeah. Was that, no, that was 2013, Richard, was it? Because City won the, no, who won it? Didn't Chelsea win it in 2010? It was 2013, I think. But yeah, Callum McManamon scored that goal. Yeah, look, I agree with you, Sean, in terms of like the Glazers leaving, I just want to see us come back to where we should be. As soon as they leave, look, it's not gonna be just as soon as they leave and we're gonna be the best club in the world again. But I do see a path when when we do get there, and them leaving is key to that. They leave and allow us to spend money.
Yeah, can I just say before we end off? I mean, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or reactionary here. I genuinely believe there's a world in which we get new owners, and if we back Ten Hag and we have like a proper 3 to 4 year project, we may not win a Premier League, we may not win a Champions League, but I think we can come very, very close. Because I look at what Arteta's building at Arsenal. I look at the madness that's going on at Chelsea with Todd Bowley spending so much after only being here for 6 months. I look at what's happening at Newcastle and how they've turned around overnight from a relegation battle to being a team that's only lost 1 game in the Premier League so far and gave Arsenal their second best game of the season. I mean, anything's possible nowadays. If you get the right type of owner who's not stingy with their pockets, I mean, you could really hit the jackpot, especially with a manager like Ten Hag. So I don't know. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
It absolutely is. And I said to Greg there a couple of weeks ago, the day they do sell up, it's going to be a monumental day. I'm getting that first flight to Manchester. I'll be ringing Sean.
I know there's a couple of Chelsea fans there in the comments and that, but aren't Chelsea like spending stupid money for what they're like an ugly fella in the nightclub trying to buy a drink for the hottest one to try and get her to go home with him, and it's just really not working. They're just a joke club this year, aren't they?
And they're not done yet because the summer's coming up. So
yeah, I think.
Yeah, do you want another gin and tonic, love? Who are you?
Yeah, like look, it's one of them where like I think with Chelsea, there is rebuilding to do in post Rome with Abramovich, and I think Todd Bowley at the minute is just trying to figure out kind of how English football works. I think he's trying to throw money at it, at the minute now to try, find the right formula. Now, again, it could be an approach where it mightn't, happen straight away, but I think if they have that type of money and they're spending that type of money, eventually it could work. Or, could be the opposite effect. They spend 1 billion like we did post Fergie, and they win nothing. It could very well go that way as well. You never know. But yeah, like look. First and foremost, Glazers just need to fuck off. I need to book my week off work then, and I'm going on an absolute bender when that happens. Absolutely. But we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks very much, everyone watching in the comments right now. Thanks very much, everyone who listened on the replay. Don't forget to smash a like in the video and hit that subscribe button as well. And we will have the match reaction tomorrow, actually hosted by myself as well. So I'll be hosting the match reaction tomorrow, and I will be joined by a couple of guests as well. So Mark's going to have a day off because he's been hosting match reactions every 3 days. The man needs a day off, so I will take over from him tomorrow. And then, hope everyone has a good evening. Hopefully we go out and get the win and get one step closer to another day out in Wembley. But thanks very much to the two lads for coming on as well. Hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.